Hello, welcome back to the Chess Mindset. In this video, I'll be analyzing one of my community members' games, and his name is Troy, and he's playing with the black pieces here. So if you want your own games analyzed, then be sure to join my Skool community, and that's linked in the description below. But regardless, we are going to be analyzing this game, and both players are around 600 Elo. So if you're also under 1000 Elo, then this video will be pretty useful for you. So let's get started with the analysis. So in this game, we start off with the move c3, which I don't really see that often, but black responds with the move knight to f6, right? So in this game, basically, we get a sort of King's Indian defense from black, and we get queen to b3. Now this move that Troy played, d5, I don't really like this move too much, because if you want to play the King's Indian, you want to put your bishop on b7 no matter what. It's basically a move that you want to play. So in this position, I would much rather just finish off your development and basically get into a King's Indian setup with this position, right? Bishop on g7 and then castles. And only after you finish this setup, then you can finish the rest of your development and play any pawn moves in the center. So in this position, I would not recommend playing the move d5, but regardless, we get d5, and now we get knight to g5. So knight to g5 looks a bit dangerous because it is attacking this pawn, and basically the idea is that if this pawn ever moves out of the way, let's say something like this, then white has this checkmate, or at least it's very dangerous for black. Queen to f7, and because the knight is protecting the queen, your king is very much in danger. You're gonna have to move to d7, and now your king is out in the open, you can't castle anymore, and your position is just gonna fall apart. So because we have this threat of the queen eventually going into f7, I would recommend a move like c6, and this protects the pawn while still allowing your light squared bishop to develop. Whereas compared to something like e6, right, you do block in your light squared bishop. Now, of course, you can still develop it to d7, but this just sort of limits your movement a little bit. Whereas with c6, you can still develop your bishop and your knight can still go to d7. Now in the game, black played knight to c6, which is a normal move, right? Just developing your knights, controlling this square. But the problem is the pressure is still on this f7 square, so we still have to be a little bit careful about that. Now white responds with e4, which basically is saying, okay, if you take this pawn, then I'm gonna take the pawn on f7, and this runs into the problems we talked about before. And here black played knight to a5, basically trying to attack the queen. Now personally, I wouldn't play this move because it puts my knight in a very awkward position where it's on the edge of the board and it can't really escape anywhere. And knights on the edge of the board are not really that good at controlling the game. And in these positions, the knight is actually very vulnerable to getting trapped with moves like b4. Instead, we just have to think of it simply like we need to protect this pawn, right? So we just play something simple like e6. So if they take, then we just take back and everything is solid. And the other thing we can do is literally just take this pawn because it's actually hanging. Right, after takes, if knight takes, then we trade everything and basically everything is protected. But regardless, we get the move knight to a5. Now white plays queen here, giving us a check and also threatening to take the knight if we don't move it. So black plays c6, attacking the queen and also defending the knight with the queen that's now active. So this is a pretty good move by black here. So the queen slides back and now black takes this pawn on e4. Now you can see the evaluation bar, it's going in white's favor now, and it's actually not clear why that's the case. Now if you want to think about why this move was a mistake, then pause the video right now and think about it. Basically, it all comes back to this knight being on the edge of the board, and the reason why you shouldn't put knights on the edge of the board is because it can easily get trapped. Notice that this knight right now can only go to one square, to this square, right? Because all the other squares are blocked, right? Can't go here because the pawn will just take. So if the only square the knight can go to is this c4 square, which is protected by this d pawn, then if white can somehow get rid of this pawn, then that means this knight has officially no squares left to go, which is why white can take this knight, and after you take back with the pawn, now this pawn is gone, right? Now you cannot play your knight to this square. And white can play the move b4 to kick out your knight, and basically your knight is trapped. And it can't go to any of these squares, so wherever it goes, like here, then you just lose the knight. So that's sort of a lesson why you shouldn't put your knight on the edge of the board. And I suggest putting the knight on a much more natural square, such as d7. So in the game, white takes the knight, and after we take back, he doesn't actually play the move b4, which, as we said, traps the knight. but he takes back with the queen. Now if I was playing black here, I would probably just trade queens with something like queen to d5, because now you can't actually trap the knight because you lose the queen. And after you trade queens, right, you have this square for your knight to escape to. So if ever something like b4, then you can just move the knight back here and your knight is safe. But black plays the move bishop to g7, and this knight is still trapped, by the way. White can still play the move b4 and just trap the knight, but white doesn't see it, so he plays queen to f3, trying to eye down this square. Now we get castles, which is a good move, right, bringing the king to safety and activating our rook. Now potentially you can move your queen up and then rook here to create this battery. And now we get the move h4. Now this move is very aggressive. I'm guessing white wants to go g4 and also h5 to sort of put pressure on the king side. And now black plays the move knight to c4. And this move basically blunders the knight because the bishop can now take. So before playing moves like knight here, we have to think about what can the opponent do. Well, the opponent's bishop is actually eyeing down that square, so we can't play our knight there. The only way we can escape with this knight is actually just to play c5 and then create this escape square for our knight. But after this knight goes here, our opponent takes it, and now comes the move e6. So e6 is a very logical move, I understand it, because you want to protect this square from the queen and bishop, and you can also bring your queen out to potentially trade queens. So this is a pretty good move from black. And now white goes with g4, aiming to put more pressure on the king side. Now in this position, it's actually quite hard to think of a good move because once again, you're down a knight and you don't really have any good moves to counter this pressure. So maybe I would just play something like queen e7, bishop d7, and then get my rooks out maybe. But it is a pretty tough position to play. But we get the move queen to f6, which is logical, right? Aiming to trade down the queens. And now we get g5, attacking the bishop. And once the bishop retreats, we get the move h5. Now black plays b5, kicking this bishop away. And once the bishop retreats, we get the move bishop to a6. So this move, bishop to a6, I really don't like. And there's a few reasons. First, you block off your own bishop, right? Bishops do not like to be blocked off. They want open diagonals. And second of all, you can't move this pawn now because otherwise your bishop will just get taken. So if the opponent ever plays something like a4, for example, and you take, then you're just going to lose your bishop. So generally, you don't want to be blocking your own bishop off where it can't actually look at anything. And this is a very good example of a good bishop versus bad bishop, right? The opponent's bishop is actually on a very good square now. It can see everything, whereas our black bishop basically cannot even enter the game right now. So now we get pawn takes and we take back. Now in this position, you could take back with the h pawn, but both work and it doesn't really matter. If you take with the h pawn, your king side is still pretty safe because the rook can't actually come in and check you. And if you take with the f pawn, this opens up the rook, which is pretty good. So I don't really see any problems with either pawn takes. Okay, now we get knight to a3 and we get rook to d8, attacking this bishop. The bishop goes to e4, which attacks this c6 pawn, and now we get c5. So far black is doing a pretty good job at eliminating the pressure. We get d4 and now pawn takes and bishop comes to f4. But this is simply a blunder because the rook can just take the bishop. But black doesn't see that and takes this pawn instead. And after takes back, we can still take the bishop. And finally black takes it and we get knight to c2. So now this bishop is also free. But black doesn't take it, he takes this pawn on c3 instead. Now the truth is these two bishops are actually very badly placed because once you take this bishop will become hanging again. And you can actually just take it, but black doesn't take it and he takes the pawn instead. And after king here, you can still take the bishop, but we play pawn to b4, giving this discover check with the bishop. King goes up and now we slide our rook over. The rook goes here and now we take the pawn. And white's position is very quickly falling apart. Our rooks are coming in, our bishops are doing a very good job at restricting the king. Now knight comes to d4, and if I was black here, I would simply just trade off everything, right? Just take the knight, and this becomes a very simple endgame where you're basically up a lot of pawns. And if you notice here, we both have two rooks and a bishop, but the difference is we have a lot more pawns than our opponent. And once we trade everything off, this will become easily winning for us. But instead we get the move e5, which is actually a mistake because now the bishop can jump into d5 and give us a check. And after we move, then we get this knight move, and this actually forks our king and rook, so we're gonna lose material. So the lesson here is don't just blindly play moves to attack the knight, because you always have to think about what your opponent's next move will be. If you just play e5, you free up this square for the bishop now, because your pawn isn't guarding it anymore. So now your king is in a vulnerable spot. Bishop to d5, and after you move, then you just get forked. But of course, white is 500 elo, so he doesn't see that. He plays knight to e6, attacking this rook. But this is actually checkmate in 1 for black. So if you want to pause the video and find the winning checkmate, then do that right now. Essentially, in this position, black could play rook to e2. And the reason this is checkmate is because we have to think about what is being covered. This rook is covering this entire file, so the king can't escape. This pawn is covering these two squares. This bishop is covering this entire diagonal, so the king can't go this way. And this bishop is covering this diagonal. And of course, the rook is protected by the bishop. So this is actually just checkmate. Now, I don't really expect beginners to spot this checkmate because it is a pretty tough pattern to spot. So instead we get the move rook to f7, and after bishop to d5, once again this is checkmate with rook to e2, but we get bishop to d4, giving this check. But now the problem is white can take the bishop, and by doing so open up this discovered attack with the bishop, and now our rook is pinned and we're going to lose our rook. So after knight takes and we take back and king takes, now this bishop is actually pinning the rook. Now white doesn't see that this bishop can be taken, so they go king to e4. And now finally black plays rook to e2, giving this checkmate that we talked about earlier. So overall, there are a few lessons to take away from this game. The first one being that you should never place your knight on the edge of the board with this knight to a5 move, because once again it can easily get trapped and your knight isn't really doing much on this square anyway. And the second lesson is we need to spot one move blunders. For example, this knight move is just a blunder because the bishop can't take. So try to prevent these one move blunders and not hang your pieces. And another thing is we shouldn't be blocking our own bishop in with this bishop move. Our bishop can't actually see anything because it's being blocked with pawns, so we don't want to be playing these moves. But other than that, this was a pretty decent game by Troy after our opponent blundered their bishop, and we managed to get a very nice checkmate on the king. So once again, if you want your own games analyzed, then be sure to join my Skool community that's linked in the description below. You'll also get access to my beginner to 1000 elo course, which will be a step-by-step guide to get you to 1000 elo. But with that being said, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.